Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys from Canada. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, on a beautiful September 3rd, 2018. Big C, happy Labor Day, Big C.
Well, you too, Charlton, and everybody there on the left coast that doesn't know what goes on out here on the East Coast where we do it the most.
Yeah.
Hey, we're talking about most. I had so many people around eating pig, man, over the weekend. It was ridiculous. Didn't nobody tell me that they were going to have 5 football games in Atlanta over the weekend. I was thinking 1, maybe 2. They had 5. I know people out there on the West Coast think that you guys play a little sports. No, we do 5 in one town.
Yeah, that's funny when they say bring your own beer for some of the people out here on the West Coast. I was down south one time, and some friends I got together for they call it a luau. It's called bring your own pig. So there are a lot of people walking their pigs up, and they had no idea what's about to happen to them in the next hour or so. Big C, but I do think it's a great holiday season. Everybody loving Labor Day weekend. We want to thank everybody all over this great country for really appreciating the land of the free and the home of the brave. I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You know, I just think so much is going on in the world of the sports universe. College football's finally here. NFL starts off, we know, coming up this weekend, Big C, on Thursday night. But I do want to say, before we even get started, I just want to pay one more moment of respect for Aretha Franklin and also Senator McCain. So many people showed their love all over the world. And going to Senator McCain, it's ironic when I think about service and you think about churches. The National Cathedral is such a place of beauty, and seeing so many of our nation's leaders, at least the relevant ones, that got together and paid their final respects to service of this country and how great Senator McCain was. I was really touched by President Obama and President Bush being asked to speak at his service. I thought it showed that they're Americans irrespective of what party. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's great to hear former presidents speak so eloquently. You know, something that we've lost the past couple of years, and to have the ultimate respect for a comrade who served the same purpose that you did in American government.
Yeah. Who
served the people and not being self-serving. You know, these were 2 great dignitaries that, you know, had adversarial campaigns against McCain.
Yep.
But in the end, they had a common goal and to maintain a friendship and respect for each other, Charlton. Something that's so difficult to have in today's society.
Yeah, I think that was very touching. So again, I thought, if anything, his daughter might just have a role in politics. I thought she gave a very heartfelt speech, a very lacrymal speech, talking about her father and how much he meant to her in this country. But I think every parent can relate to this too. There are times when you get knocked down and you got to get back up. And his daughter spoke about a time when she had fallen off of a horse, and he took her, and you know, she broke a bone in her body, I think a collarbone, and of course he took her to get mended up by the doctor. And then after a short period of time, he brought her back home and said, get back on that same horse. I think a lot of us have those moments in our own lives where we fell down and a parent said, get back up, you're going to be okay. But when he said that nothing will break you, I want to give that message to every person going through something in the United States of America. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, there are a lot of people going through something, whether it's health or finances, or it could be your relationships, it could be your job, whatever it is. But there's something about that indomitable spirit that Aretha Franklin talked about also, about the respect and always believing and going forward. And that is, don't let anything break you. Now, I know that sometimes we hear sticks and stones will break my bones, but your words will never hurt me. But to hear that message being resonated by so many great people, not just McCain, but a lot of parents around this country, when their kids are going through something, or even if you're going through something, don't let anything break you. This too shall pass. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's having a great support cast and not to just be self-serving in life, is that you help and believe in others and vice versa. You have to be willing to listen as much as you're willing to expound upon people, Charlton.
Yep.
And that's what respect is, the willingness to listen and take in other thoughts and ideas, Charlton, and develop that belief in others, and it will come back to you.
Yeah.
And both of those great individuals, Charlton, did a lot of that during their lifetimes.
Yep.
They respected others, and they also received respect from each other.
Yeah.
And you could see that in their homegoings, Charlton, is that the people who loved and resonated life around them and gained probably more from them than what they gave back to them.
Yeah.
Because they always had a message. And that's the thing. We in life get so busy that we miss the messages that are set forth for us.
Yeah.
We don't have time to pay attention in this fast-paced society. We don't take a moment and sit back. And that's something that we need to do more often. It's like when you have a child that wants to talk to you and you say, can you give me a minute?
Right.
You don't take that moment there because they don't always have the attention span that we have as an adult.
Yeah.
And what they have to say at that moment is so poignant to them. And we have to make others at times more important than us when we think about ourselves, because we're going to have ourselves every day.
Yeah.
But that moment that we have, the special that we get from somebody else, never let it go.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So I love the fact that you think about things, and it's a great thing because everybody can go through something. And to hear one of our greatest leaders in Senator McCain speak about things that made both parties who did not see eye to eye sit down and break bread. And sometimes I think that's been lost on our society. But I just want to throw this out there for the young people, because I talk to so many youth that are dealing with AAU basketball, and unfortunately, Big C, there's a lot of kids who don't have, I'll just say it this way, there's a lot of single parent kids. Not that that's a good or bad thing. Some parents are not good together, and some kids are better off with one good parent than two bad ones. But I do know this. Over the weekend, I just want to pay homage to some great men that I met over the weekend, and there were a couple of players from the Sacramento Kings that came out to a community event where they had a basketball tournament. And there's some great leaders, the clergy as well as businessmen, that put together events for young people to get together and learn some basketball skills. And I was so touched by that, because sometimes you take for granted that everybody has something to eat. A lot of these kids didn't have 3 square meals a day, Big C. You think that sometimes everybody has a way to pay for something. A lot of these kids, the organization was free. I even learned that over in Oakland in the Bay Area, Steph Curry. We talk about character. You talk about McCain and Aretha Franklin. Steph Curry puts on free tournaments for youth to show up and get some coaching and to learn some skills, and making sure that people have something to eat. Making sure that people have someone to pat them on the back and say, you can go strong, you can be strong, you can make it. This Labor Day is a part of giving back, not just to our military, but to people who do great service, and sometimes they go unnoticed. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, those are always great things to have, but one of the things I always look at, when we talk about the world of sports to youth, Charlton, is life skills.
Yeah.
It's great to be able to throw a football, to dribble a basketball, to throw and catch a baseball. But the life skills would be something that I would really love to see these professional athletes bring to these camps when they're sitting and talking to these young athletes. Yes, it's nice to see the guy drive up in his Bentley, his Mercedes, and say, hey, guys, I made it, you can make it also.
Yeah.
But I'd love for him to be a little more realistic with them.
Yeah.
Guys, the opportunity to get where I am is very minimal in life. I was very blessed and fortunate to get here. If you have aspirations to do this, the number one thing you have to do is have an education.
Yeah.
Your skills are nice. You're here in this camp because you have skills.
Yep.
But you need people skills. You need educational skills. And one of the greatest things that any of these things can do, whether it's AAU, 707, whatever these things are set up for the youth, is that every day they come to one of these camps, Charlton, to learn their particular sports skills, they should be having to write a paper on their expectations of life and education. That's going to develop them even more than what they get from these professional athletes saying, hey, this is how you block somebody out, this is how you get a rebound, this is how you shoot free throws. Your technique in the game is one thing, but your technique in life is the most valuable thing that you can ever hone. And I think sometimes if they're missing the boat by going to a camp, you got one professional athlete that shows up for a camp. You have a couple of hundred kids there, Charlton. There's only a couple of hundred players in the NBA. And so to give a lot of these kids that false illusion that this is where it is for you, you're going to be the next great me. I think it's an injustice. And I'm not knocking professional athletes because they take a moment out of their lives to come and see these kids. But I'd like for them to add a little bit more to that moment that they add these kids. When you walk in there and say, hey, you know, how much can you bench press? How high can you jump? How fast can you run? It's like, how many characters can you type a minute? How many words can you type a minute? That's what's going to get you to the next level in life. When you have to do that term paper, you know, where are you at in comprehension? This is what we need to teach these young potential athletes. But they will be people, Charlton. Even if they're not athletes, they will be people. And so they need to learn some people skills as well as these athletic skills.
Well, that's very well said. There are a lot of mentors there that are bringing computers. They're making sure that people can read and write. There are people who are learning different languages. There are some college kids there that also showed up, and they talked about the academic side of it. So for all the sporting camps, it's more than just dribbling a basketball and learning to do the crossover. They actually had people from college that came and talked about how to get your FAFSA, to get into college, and how to study right and not just get recruited but do well in the academic world. One thing I'll leave with this too, for any people around the world, that whether you have a sports show, whether you're TV or radio, there's something I learned even for myself. The question was put to me as people were saying, so who are you here representing? I said, I'm here with Big C Sports, and I was asked a question, and the question was, and this is for everybody, and it doesn't matter if you're Senator McCain or Aretha Franklin, but the question was posed, how many people can you touch? How many lives can you change outside of your own? And when that question was posed to me, sometimes you think, well, I have my own family, I got to take care of my own family. But the question was put again, everybody here has a family. Now, I just want to say that I learned something about myself, and based on that, I was invited to do some more things to help give out some opportunities for people to get in media. For example, working with television and radio. There's opportunities for kids who are going to college to actually get an internship. That is so powerful, and that's working through Big C Sports. They actually have a TV network that can help them qualify for college credits for internships. So we've always talked about not just running down scores and stats, as you just said, Big C, for what we're doing, and I hope all of our other media brethren can make it be known that when kids do any work that you're a part of, that you have a way to reach out to them and help them get some internship work or whatever it takes to get them to the next level, because they all won't make it as an athlete. So I was very appreciative of that and look forward to doing some more work with some of the groups around here in Northern California. I do want to say one thing in the world of college football. What will it take for Nick Saban to learn some manners? I know he said something very abrasive to just happened to be African-American female reporter at the end of the Alabama and Louisville football game. And it came off so abrasive that he even apologized. Now, coaches get asked stupid questions, but as an African-American man, I'm very sensitive to the lack of African-American women in media. And for one that's very prominent, I'm not going to shout her name out there, but for her to get that type of treatment in front of the whole world, we just had Senator McCain's service. But for Nick Saban to act like he can't control himself, I've never seen him lash out that way against a Caucasian reporter. And I just want to know, if you're being from the South, does that bother you that someone can do that and the whole public can see it? And you wonder how sometimes African Americans don't get those jobs that are blatantly out there, but oftentimes they don't get them. And if he can have that type of admonishment for on the air so much that he felt he needed to apologize, I just thought that was pretty bad taste, whether you apologize or not. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the apologetic part, Charlton, I appreciate that part coming from Nick Saban. But the one thing, and Nick has blasted many reporters in the past, if you sit up and watch his daily press conferences, one of the things that these reporters do, Charlton, and the same thing happened after the game, is you get the redundant questions. And as a coach, you're more interested in what's going on in the game. You want to get in there and you want to break down, analyze film. But to ask a question that's been asked for 3 weeks in succession, you know, I mean, you're almost setting yourself up for that. And not disrespect to the young lady that was asking the question, but she's set up by the producer also.
Yeah.
You got to understand the producer and director, ask him this question, ask him this question. You know, you just witnessed the game. You saw the productivity of the individuals that were playing. As a coach, you don't make decisions on the following week, you know, 2 minutes after the game is over unless you had an injury.
Yeah.
That's the only time you're doing that. So when you come to the coach and you've already made your decision going into the game, who is your starting quarterback, you don't normally change that as a head coach unless you're forced to.
Yeah.
So you already let the world and college football know who your starting quarterback was.
Yeah.
So then you come ask me, okay, well, who's you going to start next week? You just watched the same game that 83,000 people in the stadium watched and 80 million Americans watched.
Yeah.
And so you're asking me this question. What do you want a coach to say? At times, I'm defensive of a coach, and I'm defensive of broadcasting stuff.
Yeah.
But at times, when is redundant enough? You know, no one else wouldn't ask any other head coach after a game, well, who's going to be your starting quarterback next week? And I'm talking about teams who lost games.
Yeah.
No one went over to Bobby Petrino and said, well, Bobby, you're going to start this guy again next week? No, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Or any other game, when you look at the top 25, Charlton, 2 teams out of the top 25 lost this weekend. Matter of fact, it's going to be 3 because you got 2 top 25 teams playing tonight.
Yeah.
So by the college football, out of the top 25 will lose.
Yeah.
Did anybody ask Jim Harbaugh, well, are you going to start this kid again next week, you know, after the loss to Notre Dame?
Yeah.
That wasn't heard. No one asked Florida State. I mean, not Florida State, but Oregon.
Yeah.
Are you going to start the same quarterback again after getting blown out by Ohio State? So I think Nick Saban gets a bad judgment called against him because he's beat up with the same question. I look at the head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
You know, and as many times, Peterson, as many times as he's been asked about the back situation, and he's told everybody, Carson Wentz hasn't been cleared physically to play.
I don't think it's
But he's asked every week, every day by the media, well, is Wentz going to start? Well, he has not been physically cleared to play.
Right.
When you look at a head coach objective is to get through the season with as many wins possible and with less problems as possible.
Yeah.
And if you have something that's working as a head coach, that's what you go with. Everybody in the media is always second-guessing head coaches. That's why they're in the media, and then they're carrying a microphone and a pencil instead of setting up plays. They can't diagram plays, but they'll second-guess every play that's thrown out there, Charlton.
Yeah.
So for Nick Saban to be judged on everything he does, yes, he's gotten to the pinnacle. He deserves scrutiny like anybody else. But until he falls off of his pedestal, why beat him up on what he does successful year after year?
Yeah, well, I think there's time where anyone can make excuses for being abrasive, but he did come back and apologize for it. I just hate to see that happen to women who've had such a hard time getting into that business, especially women of color. I do want to ask you, based on that game, Alabama with the 51-14 beat down of Louisville. Louisville just seemed like they were out of their element. Alabama seems the same this year as they've seen the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. It doesn't really change. As far as Tua being the quarterback that runs that machine better, I think no one can say he does not, because he's shown with his timing, his ability to get out of the pressure. I thought he was a lot like Steve Young when Steve Young played at BYU and also played, for the 49ers. Of course, he played in the USFL as well as down in Tampa. But I like the way Tua played, and Alabama's defense is physical. This is a team, whether you have and you know this, Big C, if you're a lineman, you're going to have to compete for your job. Just because you started this year, it doesn't mean they don't have another guy coming out of the draft that's going to try to take your job. They don't ask if you'll give your job away. They just have guys compete for it. So I think as far as competing, that's great. But also, I think Hurts, don't let this season go by. I mean, don't play in the rest of the games. Do your red shirt, whatever, graduate, and then get a chance to play for somebody else next year if you don't get that chance for the NFL. But I just want to get your thoughts on that. There's no need in him losing eligibility, sitting on the bench when he can still prove that he has a 26-2 record. Makes your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he has an opportunity to be in 4 games before he has to redshirt, and he can do that. You know, I don't blame him for going out there, Charlton, trying to compete to show people that he can still play.
Right.
There's half the programs in the country that would accept that young man.
Yep.
But he also shows that he's as much of a team player as anybody else. What we've seen from Tua is a small body of work.
Yeah.
And basically anybody you put in at quarterback at Alabama generally can be successful. But he still didn't blow anybody away in the game, Charlton. If you look at what he did statistically, yes, he made some miraculous plays, but it wasn't like he's a polished passer. I think that's what people are missing the boat on. He's not a polished passer. He's not a polished pocket presence. A lot of players with mobility make big things happen all over the country. We see a lot of quarterbacks extending plays.
Yeah.
But until you can drop back in the pocket and command that you can control things, Charlton, that's the biggest difference that you look at.
Yeah.
When you even look at quarterbacks in the SEC, he was not even the most polished quarterback in the SEC over the weekend, Charlton. So, yes, he received a lot of accolades going to the game because of the controversy of who would be the starter.
Yeah.
Alabama won the game. But at the end of the night, Charlton, there wasn't anything there to say, hey, Tua is the chosen one. He will be the first overall pick in the draft this year or even next year, Charlton.
Well, even when you look at his ability to play, the way he plays, he'll get maligned when it's time for the NFL draft because they'll say, well, he doesn't really defenses. He can't stand in the pocket or the ball downfield. The same thing that's happened with Jackson. The same thing that happened with all the quarterbacks that have that skill. Yeah, they happen to be African-American. They said the same about Colin Kaepernick, the same thing about Watson, even the same thing about Newton. They all have that same type of, I can do it all, but sometimes that gets maligned when you get to the world of the NFL. I do want to ask you another big game that I thought went down the way college football should be played. When I look at Washington and Auburn, that's a game that could have gone either way. I think Washington had a touchdown where there was a pick called. I mean, there's controversy about whether there was a pick or not. There was also Browning overthrew a player in the end zone, and then they missed a field goal. Now, Auburn had some chances also. So both teams left points in the field. But what I saw by both teams are defenses that can at level. When you're Auburn and when you are Washington and your opponent can't get 24 points, that's a good sign that they can play defense because especially Big C in the second half, they both clamped down hard on defense. But I thought that Auburn's quarterback looked more like the Heisman Trophy candidate than Browning, who tend to wilt under pressure. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, going into this game, Charlton, I felt that Stidham was the better of the two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at what Browning has done the past couple of years, he has declined as far as his plays. 2 years ago, Charlton, he threw 41 touchdown passes. He threw 19 last year, and this season he seems to be on that same pace to throw 19. Here's a quarterback, Charlton, that's been a 4-year starter at a university. And not understanding what the big game means at this point in your career means that you're not ready. You know, he was one of those quarterbacks who desperately needed to come back for that 4th year, Charlton.
Yeah.
But to be a 4-year starter and not being able to make the simplest of passes, not being able to read the defenses, and that's what Browning has showed me, the lack of ability to mature in the pocket as a quarterback. Because there were prime opportunities against Auburn that he had, and he just could not recognize what was going on.
Yeah.
He couldn't get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that Auburn had done anything different to him, Charlton. It's just his abilities have declined as a college quarterback.
Yeah, and I contrast him when I look at Tua. And Tua, as a second-year player out of St. Louis High School, Honolulu, Browning came out of Folsom in Sacramento, set the record for national for seniors, threw 91 touchdown passes as a senior. I saw have that same issue against teams that blitzed him in high school. And he was a timing quarterback in high school. And I don't know why they don't run a timing system up at Washington. It's more of a read offense. But there were times when he would take the sack as opposed to throwing the ball away and couldn't get away. So I know he's going to be pushed as a Heisman Trophy can't miss, or at least a Heisman Trophy candidate, but I just didn't see that in him. I also want to mention, when you think about Alabama, 74 straight games that they've won versus unranked opponents. But I want to go up north, and I look at Michigan. Now, Michigan suffered 17 straight road loss versus ranked teams. And the game at Notre Dame's quarterback looked very, very good. And I know that's a game that probably could have went either way, but I think Notre Dame pretty much dominated. Give me your thoughts. And I think it's foolish to say he's on the hot seat, but Braylon Edwards gets suspended by the Big Ten Network by being critical of Harbaugh, a former Wolverine. Then Paul Feinbaum, down in the SEC, says that Harbaugh is the most overrated coach in college football. No lashback, obviously different conferences. Why is one guy suspended from telling the truth? Another guy down south told the same truth, and no one questions that. Big C, your thoughts?
The reason for that, Charlton, is because he was contracted by the network that broadcasts Big Ten games, Big Ten Network. And you have a clause in your contract is that you're not critical of the players or the coaches in the conference.
Yeah.
You talk about the other ones who did well. And him being an alumni of a university puts him in a bad position also, because he's talking as an alumnus, not as an analyst.
Yeah.
And so it's a fine line to toe in broadcasting, Charlton. And so when part of your agreement is not to blast your conference schools, Charlton, then you have to follow that line.
Yeah.
You know, you have to speak about the things that Notre Dame did well and not that Michigan did not do well.
Yeah.
Yes, they were outcoached. I mean, when you look at Notre Dame offensively, Charlton, they have a better team and better players than what a lot of people give them credit for. You know, one of the things about the Big Ten, Charlton, there's some dominant teams in that conference.
Oh, very much so.
Michigan just happens not to be one of them.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. So let me get your thoughts then. Notre Dame, another team with an African-American quarterback. Now, I just say it because I realize as great as the athletic abilities are appreciated on the college level, so much so that these coaches, you got to get the best players. But I saw the kid at Notre Dame play, and I thought that he was so poised. But again, when it comes time to being drafted, I think we saw the Bridgewater, what happened with him being traded. I think Tyrod Taylor being traded, Colin Kaepernick, those situations. So, Big C, what are college coaches in Kelly seeing that he puts his career's on the line too by who he brings in to lead Notre Dame? It's one of the most storied programs in the history of sports. What does he see that allows him to take that player and trust him with Notre Dame season, and therefore his coaching career at Notre Dame that will get maligned at the next level? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this has been a history of Kelly's quarterbacks at Notre Dame. Wimbush is just the latest in line. I mean, if you look at Kaiser a couple of years ago, you know, he was there and playing quarterback, and he's done that.
Yeah.
You know, so he's played African-American quarterbacks. Notre Dame has a history of playing them, Charlton. And it's been a part of the makeup of underneath the Golden Dome.
Yeah.
But, you know, he played last year as a true freshman. The key in college football, Charlton, is finding a quarterback that fits your system. As many of them that are out there, so many of them don't want to play at some school.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Big Ten has never been really a hotbed for developing quarterbacks. Potentially will go to the NFL.
Yeah.
When you look at Michigan, they don't have a long history of NFL quarterbacks out of that. That's one of the things that, I mean, there's been two of them that's been semi-successful.
Yeah.
And that's Greasy and Brady.
Yeah.
The rest have had so-so careers. Even Harbaugh had a so-so career coming out of there, Tony. So teams now look at highlight offenses when they want to play.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Big Ten, there's some teams with some solid quarterbacks, Charlton, who will have bright futures in the NFL. And that's not too far away from Michigan. I mean, if you look at Ohio State.
Yeah.
They've had a history of playing African-American quarterbacks, Charlton. Troy Smith won the Heisman playing there.
Yep.
So they've had that lineage. Cardale Jones won a national championship. You know, we saw what happened with the kid they had last year that graduated, that had been there for 5 years.
Yeah.
Braxton Miller had a successful career.
Yeah.
And now they've got a kid, Haskins, Charlton, who may be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's a sophomore. He's 6'5", 225 pounds.
Yep.
He looked like a world beater against Oregon State, Charlton.
Yeah.
And this is a young man that, you know, spent his time sitting behind the quarterbacks last year, learning his craft.
Yeah.
And now he's poised. And when I looked at this Ohio State game against Oregon State, Charlton, it's hard not to tell me that Ohio State might not be the best team in the country.
Yeah.
We know that Urban Meyer wasn't on the sideline, but, you know, his cell phone had been cut off.
Yeah, still working.
You know, when I look at what those guys did offensively and defensively, Charlton, now he's a defensive-minded coach. And they stymied Oregon State, Charlton, in every way that they could. That defensive line that they have is relentless.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about the players, and they just keep retooling at Ohio State.
Yeah.
When you talk about depth, and Michigan can't find a quarterback, and Ohio State has a wealth
all of them.
Charlton,
yeah.
You know, so there's something about recruiting, getting the best players available. And this young man was out of New Jersey. He wasn't out of Ohio. He was out of New Jersey. So when you have those tentacles out there that can reach all around the country with your alumni base, Charlton, it bodes well for your program.
That's very well said, Big C. 77-31. They scored more than sometimes their basketball teams will score. Last year's national championship run-up, Georgia with a 45-0 win over Austin Peay. Clemson 48-7 over Furman. I don't think that will resonate as much as maybe it could, but we'll see how they stack up when they play competition that's closer to them. Stanford gets the revenge over San Diego State, 31-10 out on the farm. Michigan State, surprising, maybe, but Utah State plays pretty decent football for their level of football, 38-31. Michigan State over Utah State. But Wisconsin, a team that you like, I know they played the night earlier on Friday, 34-3 over Western Kentucky. That team, the way they run the football, Big C, if they scored half the amount of points that Ohio State scored, I still don't think they can keep up with the Buckeyes. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's one of those hard-fought battles. Right now, like I said, I would not be surprised if Ohio State this week is the best team in the country. Alabama will stay number one because they didn't lose.
Right.
But you also got to understand, how long will it be before Alabama plays a ranked team? They'll be halfway through the season before they play a ranked team. So when people talk about how dominant that Alabama is, Charlton, they don't have a schedule that resonates. So when people sit up and talk about strength of schedule, Charlton, Alabama can't boast that like everybody else can to say that I have a strength of schedule. Their strength of schedule is only half of what Notre Dame's strength of schedule is. And by the time they get deep into their big play, Charlton, you got to look at Penn State. It was taken to the mat by Appalachian State. Wisconsin won handily. Michigan State almost lost to Utah State, Charlton. So, I mean, there's some teams there in the Big Ten that if you're looking at it and look at how they're dominating their opponents, they're not doing that.
No, I tell you what,
That's one of the things you have to look at when it comes to them. When you look at Alabama, I mean, the SEC is not going to be a cakewalk, Charlton. I saw something in the SEC that 50 years ago, Charlton, nobody would have ever thought that it would occur. And that happened in Starkville, Mississippi. Mississippi State Bulldogs. They started 11 African Americans on offense. They started 11 African Americans on defense. First time in the school's history, Charlton.
Wow.
And 50 years ago, they had no African American athletes on their football team, Charlton.
Wow.
But they made history in Starkville. And they went out and dominated, Charlton, their opponent. So when you look at the SEC and thinking that it's going to be easy for Alabama, it's not, Charlton. You got Georgia, you got Florida, you got Mississippi State, you got Mississippi that dominated Texas Tech. You know, you got some schools in this conference, Auburn, when they had that bitter rivalry at the end of the year, Charlton. That's not just going to lay down. So if Alabama earns getting into the playoffs, Charlton, it's going to be a tough road just getting through their conference alone. LSU even look good.
That LSU really surprising win over Miami. So around the country, it's some big games. Boise State 56-20 over Troy. That same Troy team snuck up on LSU last year. Texas has to be very disappointing, but they lost an emotional game to Maryland, 34-29. Oregon with the Ducks and the Bowling Green. Oregon struggled at first, but they pulled away with the 58-24 win. LSU 33-17 over Miami. I think Miami's lost their last 4 games. Mississippi 63, Stephen F. Austin 6. I was surprised, but you were more accurate than I thought, Big C. West Virginia with a beat down of Tennessee 40-14. They could really put the ball in the air. TCU, looking at the Ohio State film, blew out Southern by the score of 55-7. Southern Cal 43-21 over UNLV. So a lot of great games in college football. Oklahoma 63-14 over Florida Atlantic, which is Lane Kiffin. Wasn't feeling too good about that after it happened. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. Big C, just briefly around the world of baseball. You have the Oakland A's had 47,000 at the Coliseum today as they took care of the Yankees by the score of 6-3. In Colorado, it was 9-3 over San Francisco in the NL West. You have the Dodgers. They're looking at playing the Mets tonight. The Dodgers are right now in first place in the West. And Big C, it looks like their bats are coming alive at the right time in Southern California. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're going to have to contend with the Rockies who play in that launching pad up there in Denver.
Yep.
You know, if they can stay hot and the ball's carrying here, Charlton, in the fall, you know, they catch up with the Dodgers. The Dodgers have been, you know, banged up. They're getting their players back in the lineup, Charlton. They're at a critical time as we get into September. But, you know, with a little less than 40 games to play, Charlton, in the end of the Major League season, Charlton, it's going to be critical. I mean, if you can get on that 7-8 game winning streak, Charlton, you can lock up a playoff position.
Well, it's always exciting. This is when I love this time of the year. The weather's starting to change as we get into September, and teams are starting to decide who's going to be the teams that you pay attention to down the stretch. And I'm really looking forward to it happening in baseball. It's really a great time of the year. Big C, I wanna jump to the NFL because, you know, you were talking about this, I think just last week. Maybe you know some people that I don't know yet, but you were saying that as far as Khalil Mack, it was a shock to a lot of people that the Raiders have done something that's so dumb as getting rid of their best player. And I don't know if Gruden is anti-McKenzie, or if it happened without him. He said he didn't know what happened. How you're the coach getting $10 million a year, and now you're saying Davis is going to do deals behind your back when giving you the authority to make decisions happen? So Gruden's going to say, well, he doesn't really know what happened. Well, why are you getting the $10 million if you don't know what happened, Big C? Is he throwing McKenzie under the bus, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, nobody wants to take the blame for Khalil Mack being gone to Chicago. I think the Raiders think they're going to get a treasure trove of players because overall they're getting 4 draft picks out of this, 2 number ones over the next 2 seasons and a number 3 and a number 6. But all you have to do is look at the Raiders draft ledger, and since Khalil Mack, Charlton, who have they drafted in the first round that's been an impact player on that roster? That's what you have to look at.
Yeah.
So you had a guy who's one of the more dominant
in the league
defensive players in the league, Charlton, and you're saying, well, we don't have the money to pay. But you got to look at this, Charlton. You can't have one of the highest paid quarterbacks on your roster as well as one of the highest paid defensive players in the league on your roster. That creates an economic imbalance. And so I understand part of why the Raiders traded Khalil Mack, because you can't have 2 players on your roster that's making $25 million. That's really difficult to go out and circumvent the salary cap, Charlton. There's a lot of first and second year players you're going to have on your roster. So you really weaken your roster by having those 2 players from an economic perspective. But, you know, everybody says you got to have the franchise quarterback. But the Raiders didn't make a solid decision. They could have found a way to restructure that. I mean, I look at what the Rams have done as far as structuring deals, Charlton, for defensive linemen, for quarterbacks, for receivers, and defensive backs, Charlton. They found a way to move the salary cap around, Charlton, to make sure that the players stay intact so that they can have an opportunity for a championship run.
Yeah.
And it's really going to be telling the first week of the season because they are our opponents. The Rams and the Raiders, the battle of old L.A., if you really want to look at it. But both of these teams at one time were staples in Los Angeles. But this lets me know that Gruden, you know, after being out of the game more than a decade, is really out of touch with the modern NFL.
Yeah.
Because if you're a coach and you understand what it takes to win, and everywhere, even during my lifetime as a player, Charlton, we always heard, and everybody's always preached, you win through defense.
Yep.
Yes, it's great to have an offense that can score, but if you can't stop anybody, I mean, we can find Dan Fouts somewhere on the phone somewhere.
Yeah.
And Dan Fouts would tell us this. I could score with anybody. Me and Dan Marino,
yeah.
We could throw for as many yards as anybody in NFL history.
Yep.
But we could not win because we never had a defense.
Yeah.
Neither one of them, Charlton.
Yeah.
So this is what you're looking at with a Derek Carr. Look at the pressure now that's really put on Derek Carr and John Gruden.
Yeah.
They have to produce, Charlton, at least 28 points a game now for the Raiders to win.
Yeah.
Now, John Gruden has no excuse where he can blame anybody else. He stated last year the defense wasn't that good with Khalil Mack on it.
Yeah.
Now, if that defense is worse this year without Khalil Mack than what it was last year, Charlton, then John Gruden is a worse coach than what he was the year before.
Well, I think he's already gotten rid of Janikowski. He's gotten rid of Mack now. Crabtree's gone. I think their kicker, their punter, was also a Pro Bowl player. King is gone. He's gotten rid of everybody that actually was better than just a player for the Raiders. They were actually Pro Bowl players. It just doesn't make any sense. Even if you like Gruden, and if you're thinking, well, like a lot of the media pundits, well, Gruden's going to come back and bring that winning tradition back to Oakland. He only had one winning season. That's when they went to the playoffs. The Tuck rule. He was an 8-8 guy. He was fired from Tampa because he lost his last 2 seasons. He didn't win. And now coming back to Oakland, it just seems they got a guy who hadn't flown an airplane in 10 years, and they're saying, hey, he's been in flight school. No, you got to fly the plane to know him. I hope the Raiders do well, but how do you tell the fan base, Big C? How do you tell the fan base that you've gotten rid of the best player on your team, and they had a hard time selling out anyway because they had the top part of the stadium. Now you got rid of their best player. And you're going to tell them we're going to do things, we're going to build it John's way? What is John's way? The guy that got fired at Tampa? It doesn't make any sense, Big C. Le'Veon Bell said he'll miss the season opener for the Steelers. I know you talked about that, how smart he was for not being hoodwinked into a bad contract. Is he making a good decision, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's going to make a decision that's good for him. I mean, in the media, we always talk about, what's good for the team.
Yeah.
Now players are understanding what's good for them.
For me.
When a player gets CTE, Charlton, is that good for the team?
Wow.
When a player tears up his knee, is that good for the team, Charlton? So players now, Charlton, have made so much money in professional football, just like with Khalil Mack. He's being fined $850,000 a game. He got that fine 4 preseason games from the Raiders.
That's crazy.
Think about that.
Yeah.
He got fined $3 million from the Raiders for sitting out. Because Khalil Mack said, I want to optimize my money now.
Yeah.
I'm not guaranteed playing football 3 years from now. Based on the position that I play and the guys that I go against, there's a chance every play that I can get a concussion.
Yeah.
There's a chance every play that I can blow out my knee.
Wow.
Le'Veon Bell is saying the same thing. He touches the ball the 3rd most times in the Pittsburgh offense.
He's amazing.
That's what no one looks at. Who touches it more than him? The center.
Yeah.
Or his pounce.
Yeah.
He's the only player, and then the quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. Those are the only 2 players in the Steelers' offense that would touch the ball more than Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
And so Le'Veon Bell has said, why shouldn't I be the 2nd highest paid player on this offense based on the number of times I touch the ball? And my risk factor is the 2nd highest on the team behind Pouncey of being hit.
Yep.
The center's going to have contact every play. We know what happened in the history of the Steelers with Mike Webster and the movie Concussions.
Yep.
And so Le'Veon Bell is looking at the same thing. Am I going to be the guy that next hit is my career?
Yeah.
I need to have some security in my pocket. And playing under the franchise tag, Charlton, of the $17 million, $14 million that they're going to pay him, was worth more than the $10 million guarantee that they offered him in a contract. They told him, if you sign this $70 million contract, we will give you $4.7 million less to play football this year. And the media was questioning him. And I'm like, okay. He doesn't have CTE.
That's funny, Big C. It's a lot like when I went down to the luau and they said, bring your own beer and bring your own pig. And those pigs were all walking around all proud. They had a little rope around their neck and they felt they were going to eat too. They had no idea that they were actually the dinner, Big C. So sometimes it's good to read. Can pigs read? I mean, they say, can pigs fly or can sheep fly? Big C, can pigs read? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, in the California prison, you see they got those animal crossing signs out there, so evidently there's somewhat limited. But I heard it's spiritual inside, so the sign can't be too far away.
That's funny. I want to ask you, the Pro Bowl, pro football, just 3 days away. Everybody's hyped about it, but with 3 days away, and Mac, the best player for the Oakland Raiders. In Chicago, I think Chicago just got a lot better on defense, Big C. The Buffalo Bills named Nathan Peterman their starting quarterback. They were very pleased. Why is he named their starting quarterback? I saw him play when they came out to Los Angeles and played the Chargers. I think he had 5 interceptions in the first quarter. Big C, why is he their starting quarterback? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, your buddies Mel Kiper and Todd McShay said that Josh Allen was can't miss, and that he was the best quarterback in the draft.
Yep.
And that he should go number 1 overall, that he had that NFL arm, that he was ready. And then all of a sudden he played the Cincinnati Bengals in a preseason game.
Yeah.
And the only thing he was ready to do was run and throw interceptions.
Yeah.
But that lets you know. When you think about the NFL, Charlton, this year, there are going to be 15 different teams with new starting quarterbacks this season. Think about that. Almost half of the league is turning over the quarterback pivot position. Yeah. And of those 15 new starters, the Buffalo Bills is the only one without a starting quarterback.
Wow.
Wow. So, you got a guy who threw 5 interceptions the last time he got under center in a game, Charlton. Yeah. You got a guy that you drafted that said he was the most complete quarterback ready for the NFL draft. And you think about that. You're the Bills. You traded up. You got rid of players to draft Josh Allen. Yeah. Okay? And you listen to all the pundits out there saying that he was the best quarterback available in the draft. And he was built for the weather in New York. Yeah. In Buffalo. So if he was the best player available, Charlton, and he was your future, he's a franchise quarterback. And this is the thing I never get over. Yeah. When they say he's a can't-miss franchise quarterback. What the hell is Nathan Peterman? He throws 5 interceptions. Yeah. And the guy who's a can't-miss franchise quarterback can't beat out the guy that throws 5 interceptions in 1 quarter? That lets me know that you don't even have a quarterback on your roster.
Wow, I tell you, there's that conspiracy thing that floats around the NFL. It's nothing new. They just want that certain eugenic look at quarterback. I wish everybody the best. I love football season. I love the smell of the air, how people can compete. The tailgating, the barbecue smoke that flows over the stadium when a lot of people are having a good time tailgating. I think that's great for the game. And we all know everybody has the opportunity to win now. Everyone has the opportunity to say that their team is going to be the team that gets it done. But I wanna get your thoughts on this. I look at, and again, when I look at what happened with the Raiders, there's still a lot of players. This is what I just gotta say. Players are saying they're disappointed and they're in shock about what happened to Mac. Because the Raiders are in my backyard, and I know they got rid of Jack Del Rio to bring in John Gruden, and I would love to see the Raiders do well. But if your players are in shock, doesn't that tell you he's lost them already? Because the players are not on board. Now, you might want to come in with that big stick and you rule with a big stick, Big C. Like, I think there's a movie called Walking Tall back in the day. There's a big stick, and he kept beating everybody over the head with that stick. John Gruden wanted to come in and be the guy in Walking Tall. But when your players, who are not even better than Mac, are saying they're in shock, what does that say to them? But Peterman is starting for the Buffalo Bills. How does that make sense, Big C? I just don't understand it.
Well, Charlton, you have to just question the NFL makeup all over when you're sitting there and you're seeing a quarterback. You have a team with 2 quarterbacks that neither one of them are NFL ready. That lets you know how low the NFL will go to keep certain players out of the league, Charlton. That you're going to go around. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater was just traded from the New York Jets to the New Orleans Saints. Yeah. Who will have the NFL's most prolific quarterback of all time before this season is over, Charlton. Yeah. Going to play as a backup. You had RG3 sitting up in Baltimore, who played better than anybody there in Buffalo did during the preseason, Charlton. Yeah. And so you got quarterbacks that are sitting on the bench and on many teams, Charlton, that are better than quarterbacks that will be starting in Buffalo. Yeah. And that's not a knock against those young guys, Charlton. It's just if you're not there and you don't have it, you don't have it. We saw Houston do that for a couple of years, Charlton, prior to getting the shot.
Yeah. Yep.
So to say that guys look a certain way, yeah, they look a certain way. I mean, I've been in locker rooms, Charlton, and been in practice with guys who look great in the uniform.
Yeah.
You tell them to line up. It's like, huh? You know,
which way you going to run?
Like speaking French to them, and, you know.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you know, the difference between playing and looking good is ability.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I mean, you can walk into any gym in America, Charlton, any powerlifting gym in America, and see great bodies.
Yeah.
You can.
I know.
But none of them are football players.
Right.
They're not football players. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably go to a yoga class and find a football player before you can find one in a powerlifting gym.
Yeah. Usually at the gym.
But
Go ahead.
I have to question the directors of player personnel, the GMs, and especially all these draft analysts.
Yeah.
I want to hear every one of those draft analysts this week, right? Whether you were on the NFL Network, whether you were on Fox, whether you were on ESPN.
Yeah.
I want to hear all those NFL draft analysts, Charlton, because all the quarterbacks they talked about that were NFL ready, you know, that are not ready. Sam Darnold will start in New York.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they traded Lamar Jackson, so they wouldn't have any controversy.
Yeah.
So they made it clear cut. Let's trade the guy so there won't be any controversy. But Rosen will be sitting on the bench in Arizona. You know, he won't be playing. Baker Mayfield will be sitting on the bench in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And your buddy up there, Josh Allen in Buffalo, won't be playing. Everybody knew Lamar Jackson was going to be sitting behind Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
There was no talk when he was drafted that he would be challenging for the starting position.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen was said long before the draft that he should have been number one overall. The Cleveland Browns were making a huge mistake by not taking him.
Yeah.
Well, the Buffalo Bills made a huge mistake by taking him. He shouldn't have went for the third round, Charlton.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. So we know everybody's happy about what they're going to do, all excited about, because everyone has a chance now. There's been a lot of players let go, a lot of players cut, and now as we start this first game going to be on Thursday, it's going to be Atlanta at Philadelphia. We'll all get the chance to get that flavor of NFL football. But I want to ask you your thoughts on something that I think is very seminal in what just happened in light that the court said that the NFL could not have Colin Kaepernick's his collusion lawsuit against the league tossed out. I think for every person that was anti-Kaepernick, because for the most part because people are ignorant, or they just want to have that enmity and they found anything to grab onto to say, yeah, you see, that's why we don't like him. He's against the flag. No, he's against ignorance. So if you didn't like what he stood for because you're an ignorant person, and all that means your lack of knowledge. But Nike, maybe they're grandstanding. Maybe because, Nike outfits a lot of the NFL teams. Nike outfits a lot of college teams. And Colin Kaepernick's part of Nike's 30th anniversary of Just Do It campaign. It's for intelligent people. It's for people who are socially conscious. And it's about believing in something, even if it means you sacrifice everything. I want to get your thoughts on, it's one thing to accuse somebody of anything. And the whole world says, yeah, he did it. But when he's vindicated, where are all these knucklehead pundits and these TV networks with their high-priced analysts that were standing on that he hates the flag garbage, because that was never the case? Where are they now that even the company that will deck out their uniforms and their own teams are standing behind this guy now? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Nike dresses half of the nation, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you think about that, Nike dresses half of the United States. They dress half of the college football teams. They dress half of the NFL, Charlton.
Yep.
And there's not many kids in America that walk around without a Nike product on them, or adults. So when you put him as part of this Just Do It campaign, do something even if you risk losing everything.
Yeah.
I think what a poignant statement from Nike. And that's a political statement also by Phil Knight, making that grandstand.
Yeah.
Is that you're going to tell me, my company, that we're anti-American, and I started my company in the back seat of my car.
Yep.
Is that anti-American? This is the American dream. What Nike has been talking to show that you can build a shoe company from nothing and knock out all the other big boys. That you can own all the major athletes in America, Charlton, that everybody wants to wear your brand. Every young man aspires to wear your brand. And now you're going to put the face of your brand, the name and face that America tried to ostracize, that they tried to bury, Charlton. Colin Kaepernick now will resurface in advertising campaigns, Charlton, on billboards, on television, those same networks and broadcasters who tried to blast him. He will be there. He will be on those news broadcasts, Charlton, who spoke negatively about him being anti-flag, anti-military. Now they will have to look at Colin Kaepernick. Nike is a bold enough leader in American society and politics, Charlton, to say, we can take this stance and we can put out there the spokesperson that we want to be. We understand the divisiveness in this country, but we are not a divisive company. We are a company that allows all to flourish from what we have. And this is what they're doing by putting Colin Kaepernick out there. They're saying that we're not going to be subordinates to all the rhetoric that's been going on out there. You have to recognize us because we are Nike.
I think about the late Senator McCain that did not want POTUS to come to his service because he only wanted people there with a character. Nobody is perfect, but I think you stand up, and again, we talked about this before, one of the seminal moments of Aretha Franklin is called Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. And then McCain, when he took the microphone out of that lady who was behaving like a bigot, when she said, President Obama, he's a Muslim, I don't trust him. Well, he shouted her down in front of the whole universe. He told her, no, ma'am, and give me the microphone. He took the mic out of her hand and said, he's a good man. We just have different political views. And I love that moment. Well, when I hear that same POTUS, who was uninvited to one of the most charismatic men with character that this country has ever had serve our military, think about it. Who served our military, didn't run with 5 deferments. And you have Kaepernick being told by Nike, we want you to be the face of what we're doing. I look at guys like some of our TV brethren. It was Phil Simms. It was Mike Ditka. There was a time when even the great Al Michaels said something. Oh, here we go again. Jim Nantz, same thing. And none of these guys will come out and say, you know what, I was wrong. And like John McCain said, if you're wrong, just say, hey, I was wrong. I made a mistake. For all these guys who stood on that side of bigotry and that grandstanding to try to bury this man and keep him out of work, they have no decency to even say, you know what, I was wrong about my stance on Kaepernick. No, they should come out and do that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they don't have to walk the path that Kaepernick or any minority American walks. That's the thing you have to understand. For them to say that they were wrong, that would mean that they don't want to live in the neighborhood that they live in. But it's like so many Americans say, well, we don't see that where we live. And it's very true. They don't see social injustice. They don't see the police in their neighborhoods in a negative light, Charlton, pulling over people just to pull them over and question them and taking them out of the car. They don't see it. Their kids can come home, if they've gotten if they've been pulled over intoxicated. The officer may call the parents and say, hey, why don't you come get them? These things happen. They don't normally have to worry about their kids being cuffed up, Charlton, for doing something minor. So, I mean, there's been a social injustice that's gone on in America forever, and it's based on economics. The economics that Al Michaels has, the economics that Jim Nantz has, Charlton, that's not the average economics of an African-American. Maybe an athlete, but not the average African-Americans. So when people say they don't get it and they don't understand, go ask the people in West Virginia, where the unemployment is the highest and the opioid rate is the highest in America. Go ask the people in Northern Ohio that are Caucasian and ask those the same thing, that, family members are being incarcerated now for opioid use. And I'm not making light of the drug, Charlton, because it's a terrible thing that's going on in America. But go ask those people, how do they view law enforcement, Charlton? Ask them, do they feel that they get justifiably treated? Because the pharmacist who is writing the prescription for them illegally is not getting locked up, but they're getting locked up. So there's pockets in America where whites are treated just as bad. But those that are getting treated just as bad, Charlton, are not in those neighborhoods where you have the multi-million-dollar houses. Where you have police patrolling your neighborhood as security. not as trying to arrest you, Charlton.
Well, I'm just proud of Nike saying just do it, because we tell everyone to be brave. You don't have to be liked. You know, with Big C Sports, we don't care if people like us. Just Google if we're right or wrong, because I'm really about how do we get fairness back into the reporting. So we ask everybody to Google what we say. Google everything you hear, because you want to make sure that you're not being hoodwinked. So all the great games that we saw over the weekend, really happy to see football back. We'll love to see some athletes getting paid. That hasn't happened. But the more you talk about things, they tend to happen. I'm really proud of Colin Kaepernick for leading the way for a character. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we got 3 days into the kickoff of the NFL season. And right off the gate, Charlton, you get a battle of the birds in Philadelphia. The Falcons versus the Eagles.
Yeah.
And this is an excuse game, Charlton.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, $155 million.
Wow.
Did not get it done last year in Philadelphia. Versus Nick Foles, quarterback who has nothing to lose.
Yep.
You know, representing the Super Bowl champions. One of these teams, Charlton, may not make the playoffs if they lose this opening game.
Well, I hope that nobody gets the bird after that game. It should be a fantastic game. You know, Philly is crazy about sports. Also being crazy about sports, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.